Hello, everybody, and welcome to PublishDrive Author Hour. I am Danica Favorite, the community manager at PublishDrive. And wow, my brain just kind of blanked there. But anyway, I'm back. I'm the community manager at PublishDrive. And last week we talked about the blurb and how your book blurb might be what's keeping readers from buying. And so, like I was talking about discoverability and metadata and how that all works together. But one of the things I briefly mentioned and said we would go into detail later, that is today, is your book cover. And whether or not your book cover is doing the job that it needs to do, is it going to make readers click on it? And, a cover and a book blurb, they really are that same promise of book discoverability and how readers find and decide to buy your book. And so I had an interesting experience last week, and it kind of made me even more convinced about the importance of a good cover and a good book blurb, particularly the cover. So last week there was like a romance reader book giveaway where, there was a website you went to, it listed all these books that were free and you just clicked on them and got them. And I started to notice a pattern very quickly. And that pattern was that the books that had really good reviews and had a lot of reviews all followed a lot of the cover principles that we're going to be talking about today. However, the books where I looked at them, I'm like, wow, that is a terrible cover. Almost every single case, when you clicked on it, you read the description, it had very poor reviews. And there were a few exceptions. So exception number one was a well-known established author. There were a couple of authors. I know they're well-known. I know they're established. I know they have a huge readership. And I've often joked that certain authors, all you have to do is put on a blank piece of paper that says, this is a book by well-known author, and people are going to buy it. And that kind of proved that point for me because, again, like some of those covers, I was like, ew, no. Why did you do that? Why did you make that decision? But again, well-known author, it doesn't matter what's on their book, on their book cover. And so the second exception was really terrible cover, but man, the blurb was so good. And so they did have a few more reviews and things like that. But again, what I noticed was it was just so obvious was there was a vast difference between the books that had a lot of reviews and the books that had very few reviews. And it really went down to, do they have a marketable cover? And I thought about doing some screenshots, but I'm a very firm believer in, I'm never going to publicly shame anybody. Even like the stories I tell, I make sure I change details and things like that because, I don't give away identifying details, I should say, because I don't want someone to be like, oh my gosh, this author is terrible, etc. I don't want to do that. And I don't want anyone to feel bad about what they're doing. So I didn't do any screenshots. I didn't say, ooh, this is it. But in noticing that pattern, I was like, wow, this really is important for us as authors, as people who want others to read our books. It's super important for us to make sure that we have good marketable covers. And so that's just part of the promise. People have an expectation of whether or not this book is going to be a good book based on the cover. And I will say, because we are going to be talking about some AI covers, I know that there are some very vocal people out there who say AI cover means a bad book, I'm not buying it, et cetera, et cetera. Totally get that. And I see the trolls hopping onto those discussions every day. What I want to tell you is they're just trolls. Because I am a moderator of the AI for Authors group on Facebook. And I'm part of the AI cover group on Facebook as well. And so I know a lot of these authors who are in the trenches and in the book world and writing books. And what I will tell you is that the readers don't care. Like, you'll see comments that the readers care, they don't. Like, you'll see people's cover, oh, this is an AI cover, it's terrible, blah, blah, blah. But what's funny about that is I've also seen just as many comments from people who are not using AI covers. And like, people will just leave comments, oh, this is an AI cover, I'm not reading it. And it's not true. And so my encouragement to you is to get rid of any preconceived notions you have about AI and AI covers in terms of whether or not that's actually going to work. I'm really good friends with Jill and Mallory Cooper of The Writing Wives, and they have a whole community, and I spend time with them. And Mallory is a Facebook ads expert. And one of the things she has said is that there really isn't a noticeable difference in clicks on ads or anything like that, whether or not you use AI. And in some cases, the AI stuff actually performs better, which I thought was really interesting. And I don't know, again, this is like older information, like as of a couple months ago, she was saying that. So maybe it has changed a few months later. But the point being is that don't let the fear of that stop you, and don't trust the very vocal trolls out there, because what I'm finding is they are just vocal trolls, and they are not correct. And the sales data actually tells a different story. So don't let that be the thing that makes you afraid of thinking about AI or AI covers. Because when I was doing this cover experiment and looking at these books, like I said, in this reader thing to get people to buy all these books for free. Because I have seen a lot of AI images, I could tell there were a few AI covers in the mix. Actually, more than a few, to be perfectly honest. And they did not have any, there wasn't a noticeable difference in what you could tell by the number of reviews they had. And the reason I'm telling number of reviews is that you obviously cannot necessarily say this book sold really well, this book didn't, because we don't have their sales numbers. But when you look at someone's review numbers and you see there are a lot of reviews, you get a pretty good sense that a lot of people have bought this book. And if it's a high review ranking, then you know that a lot of people also bought and liked the book. And so that's why I'm using that as my standard in terms of saying this is what people are looking for the book. And so what you have to remember is that your cover is your visual marketing copy. That is, when people look at the cover, it is the kind of story that people expect. It doesn't have to explain your story. Like, don't pick, the best scene or the best thing. Like, again, as I was talking about with the blurb workshop last week, where the person's blurb was the best scene of the book, but it didn't convey what the whole book was about. And so if your cover is a really cool fight scene, but there's only one fight scene in the book, people are going to open that book and be like, where's the fight scenes? So really think about what is the feeling of the book? What is the message? And what the people want to experience when they experience a book. What is that experience they're going to receive as this general theme of the story? And so when you are looking at your books, you want to look at the typography, the color palette, the characters, whether it's an illustrated versus photographic design, object-based versus character-based imagery, the composition, the emotional tone, series branding. And here is the biggest clue. And you know what? I actually forgot to pull this up. Let me see if I can do it really quick on my phone. But you want to see what is legible when you pull up the cover and as a thumbnail, because here's what here's what your readers are looking at. And Okay, why can I not get to this on my phone? Sorry. Well, I'm just going to do it this way. But like, look at these covers on the book. They're small. So just pulling up covers, when you look at someone's cover on your phone, what do you notice? What can you read? What can you tell about the cover? Somebody was just saying to me the other day, it was this really busy cover. And I was like, get rid of the busyness. And they're like, why? And I said, because it's so busy. You just saw what I showed you on my phone, and do this for yourself, because I realized that me pulling it up on my phone and showing on camera wasn't necessarily the best way to do it. But pull it up on your phone and start scrolling through the bestsellers and what is working and what is not working, because it really does show a lot about the story, and that's what people are making a decision whether or not to buy the book on. And so what I decided to do is we're gonna go right into Amazon. And so this is bestsellers and holiday romance. And the reason I'm looking at holiday romance, totally self-serving here, in the sense that I'm using my book that I'm getting ready to release as a example. However, I'm also just going to give you this disclaimer that I've been telling you I've been editing it. I'm still editing it. It's still not done. It's fine. It'll get there. But like, as we talk about creating the cover for my book, I also want to show you what is actually working right now. And so the best way to do that is go in whatever genre. Like I said, this one is going to be holiday romance. So again, you're going to look it up. You're going to pull up top 100 genre holiday romance. So this is a top 100 page. Here's what I want you to notice about this is that as you're looking at this, one of the things to keep in mind is, like, already can you see that these all have a very similar feel? What you don't see, like here, we got to number 10 and 11 before we saw actual people on the cover. Prior to that, this is kind of, there's some people there, I guess. So yeah, there are people, but like, again, it's more the imagery and all of that. So here's the other thing to look at. So for example, like, okay, these Lori Gilmore books, they are doing really well. This is not an example you want to use. And why? Okay, my mouse isn't clicking on this. Basically, I'll just tell you why. I was going to click on it and show you, and then it's going to be a lot of clicking. Basically, this is actually put out by HarperCollins. And so HarperCollins is a traditional publisher. It's not going to be a great example of what to do or what not to do. But, and again, Tessa Bailey, same thing, a bigger name author. But, as you scroll through here, you can still see what is selling. Like Allie Hazelwood, great. Don't use her as an example. And the reason is because she is a really big name author. And so while she is great, people are going to buy her cover regardless. And so what you really want to do is you want to find other authors that do well, who maybe aren't big name author or don't have the backing of a major publisher behind them. But if you look at all of these different books, what you're seeing is you're seeing the examples of what these holiday romances look like. And so it's really important, again, take a look. And again, what does the genre signal to you? So if you look here over at this one, The Naughty List, if you look at that book, like, you're going to expect that to be more of an erotic romance. And again, this is something we were talking about with the book blurb. Are you signaling what kind of story to expect from this book? Okay, sexy man on the cover. Yes, we're going to expect sexy man in the book. The one next to it, How My Neighbor Stole Christmas by Megan Quinn. you're going to expect that this book is going to be a fun Christmas story. And then, apple pie, Christmas ice cream parlor. This again is not necessarily a great example because this is HarperCollins. But if you look at this and you see, okay, what we're expecting is this is going to be set in an ice cream parlor, small town, very small town feel good books. And so, again, just keep looking at what are these different trends that we're seeing in these books? What is going to be the thing that is attracting the readers? Notice I'm not asking you if you like it or not, because I don't care if you like it or not. I don't care if I like it or not, because the readers are liking it enough to click on it. And this is where I was showing you, notice the number of reviews. We have 12,481, 4.5 stars. Where's the one that I just spied that was a little bit lower? So like this one is only 335, but it's still 4.5 stars. So we know, again, this is bestseller list. These are the ones that are selling. And so again, what you're looking at is you're seeing that these are going to be popular books that people are reading. And so as you're looking at these, make sure that you're paying attention to not just what your personal taste is, not what you like, because I know we all have our preferences of what we like. I definitely look at some of these and I'm like, ooh, that's a pretty cover. I want that. And so maybe that's true, maybe that's not, but it isn't whether or not I want it, it's whether or not it's going to resonate with readers. And that's why when you're looking at your own cover design, take a look what is on these bestseller lists, what is happening, and what people are looking for, because that's so important. And one of the examples that I was looking at, again, this just so happened to be something that just came up very recently, kind of along as I was working on figuring this out. My friend, Susan Gable, posted a blog about Covers Matter. And so what she did is she was talking about how all she did was update her book covers. And so she took this original book, A Kid to the Rescue. She got her rights back from Harlequin. And so she changed it to A Hero to Keep, recovered it. And then what she did very recently is that she wanted to just update the cover, see how it did with sales. So A Hero to Keep, the third cover, that is her newest cover. And all she did was change that cover and it increased her sales. She did the same thing with her next book, A Family to Keep. Again, you see the evolution of the covers. And then finally, A Promise to Keep. And once again, you see this same cover evolution. And it's really important to note that, and she says in this blog, I did give you the link to the blog in the description. So if you want to check it out and read what she is talking about, this is why it's important to just go and look at your covers, see what needs to be updated, and update them on a fairly regular basis. Not as often as you'd be updating the blurb, obviously, but romance genres, romance tastes change. And so what she did is she updated these covers to follow that change. And again, all she did was update the cover and her sales increased. And so that is where, again, you're like, the book didn't change. It doesn't matter. The book became more discoverable because people went ahead and made it so that the book could be found easier. And When the books don't work, a lot of times, it might be signaling the wrong genre. Like I was showing you with that erotica cover. I mean, maybe you're going to read the book and it's a sweet romance. Well, then don't put a sexy dude on the cover. And I know that seems really logical, but it's really amazing how many people don't do that with their cover. You want to look at what that central appeal of the story is, and making sure that, again, the appeal is to your target reader. It isn't about you. It's not about what a pretty cover looks like. And I made this mistake. I hired a cover designer. I bought these really beautiful covers. And when I was showing them off to one of my friend was like, I didn't know this was a women's fiction. I thought this was romance. I'm like, it is romance. No, that's a women's fiction cover. And so it's really important to understand what those genre signals are. So I showed you holiday romance. Go look at your genre. As I said, look at what your genre is doing. What do those covers do? And don't try to communicate too much. It's just one simple scene. It's one simple image. All of those books that I showed you, they weren't all the cool stuff in the book. It was one primary image of what was happening. And so make sure that all of it is connected, and taking a look at what needs to happen with your cover to sell those books. And so here's just a quick cover audit to make. First of all, can you identify the genre without reading the description? Like if you look at the book, do you know what it's promising? Does it resemble books my ideal reader already buys? Is the title readable as a small thumbnail? Does the emotional tone match the reading experience? Does the cover make the same promise as the blurb? And does it look current beside recent comparable books? Are these, because again, we were talking about keywords and what are things that people are going to buy, what's going to make it searchable. So what I really liked here is I liked the Wedding Planner's Promise. So that's what we're going to call this book. We're going to call it The Wedding Planner's Promise. And then for the subtitle, I'm like, okay, I need a subtitle. And so it gave me all these subtitles. And this is one of the things I think is really great to know. So first of all, like the suggestions that it gave me: a small town contemporary romance of love and integrity, a suspenseful small town romance about second chances. So here's the thing. My book is not suspenseful at all. However, to give the AI credit, and this is where we have to use our judgment and our human guidance, is there's nothing suspenseful in the book. There is a character in the book who's a little creepy, and there's kind of like this will they, won't they vibe going on, but it's not a suspense. And so if I were to put suspenseful in here, that's going to give the wrong indication to someone who is reading the book or wants to look at the book. They're going to pick that up and say, oh, it's suspenseful. Nope, it's not. And so they're going to be disappointed. So what I actually did, and again, like I didn't love a lot of these subtitles. As you can see, I did a lot. So I clicked generate more. I got more, or I'm getting more. So we can also recommend these. And so what I actually did, because I wasn't loving all these, but here's what I did love. I took pieces. I actually went with a small town contemporary romance about second chances. And so what I have here is in my keywords now that are my subtitle that are hints both to the AI and to the reader. It's a small town contemporary romance. So people who love small town contemporary romance, they're going to want this book. About second chances. Second chance romance is a huge seller in the genre. And so people are really going to love that trope, and they're going to say, boom, small town contemporary romance about second chances. That's for me. So, and this is where, again, like, please never, ever, ever, ever take AI at its word and say, oh, yeah, AI said it, it must be true, it must be the best. No, you still have your own human judgment. And so that's where I use my own human judgment to say, a small town contemporary romance of love and integrity. I'm sorry, a small town contemporary romance about second chances. So what I did is I took this. So we're going to go back to the Wedding Planner's Promise. Now, we're going to there we go. And so what it did is it gave me 8 scenes that might interest me. And so it talks about, like, here are the different things that it came up with. And so here's what I want you to notice. So first of all, the Wedding Planner's Promise. This cover right here, this looks a lot like what we just looked at, doesn't it? Yep, sure does. Sure does. And so that to me is a strong candidate. But we're going to go back, and our CTO kindly gave me a whole bunch of credit so I could really play with this. If you look up here, you can kind of see in this corner 9853. That's how many credits I have to play with. And so that's way more credits than anyone will humanly need for these simple tasks. But he gave me a bunch so that I could play a lot and show you a lot. So yeah, that one is really good. The other one that's really good, this one is pretty. I have to say, like, this one drew my attention because it's so pretty. And part of me is like, ooh, I want this, I want this, I want this. Did we see covers like that? No. So I probably wouldn't go with this, even though I think it's really beautiful, unless I was seeing a bunch of, and I would maybe do more deep dive to check this out. However, here's what I know. The Wedding Planner's Promise. So this one with the mountains and the couple, this is most like what I already have. And so to keep the series branding similar, I would go with something like this. Now, I really like this one in the middle, mostly because it's lightest and the brightest. So I clicked on it, and what it gave me is I can remix it. And so it's scene description, got Mary Jo and Guess stand together on Silver Ridge's Main Street at sunset, the Colorado Rockies rising behind them. And so it tells you what's there, main message, hit remix. And here's what you can do. When you hit remix, you could actually go with elements that you didn't like on the cover. You could change this. And I really don't like the big subtitle. So I'm going to see if saying, instead of smaller, I'm going to see if small works. We're going to see what happens. And it does kind of take a few minutes, and, it's processing, it's thinking. And so here we are, we have better, we have a better sense. And what I forgot to do is show you how many credits that took. So what we have here is a new version of that. So I actually kind of like this one better, but I like how light that one is. So if I click on it, I'm going to click Remix Cover. And again, you can play with the title, the subtitle, all of that. And scene description. So you go to scene description and background, and you can do, the main message, scene description, And then I'm just going to do couple is more prominently featured. The other thing that you can, and see right here, it tells you how many credits it's going to cost you. So generate 3 more credit covers, it's going to cost you 4 credits. As you saw, I had a ridiculously high number of credits, so it's not going to impact me a lot. But for someone who doesn't have as many credits or doesn't want to buy a lot of credits, you can easily know how much it's going to cost you before you do it. And so here we have, it's given me something different. Personally, I'm not, again, I really want the couple to stand out more. Let's see, which one is the best of these? But do you see, it's just playing and doing different iterations. I'm going to hit remix again. And we have all the different elements, scene description. Yeah, see, that didn't help. Focus should be on the couple. And we're going to come here. Maybe we are. A main message, the silhouette of man. So choices, couple should be prominently featured. And boom, let's see if that works. It may not. And this is something that I'm not going to do because it requires jumping to too many screens and too many instructions. But you could also actually go into like ChatGPT or whatever and say, hey, could you please give me a way to prompt this better? And so I like this one the best. So here's the thing. So I'm choosing this one. I'm not actually choosing. I'm choosing it, but I'm not because I'm going to explain to you what I'm going to do here. And so this cover meets the resolution ratio required by stores, allowing you to upload it directly without modifications. Should you encounter any issues, you need only pay once. Further downloads of this image will incur no additional costs. So download 5 credits. And boom, I have this cover. So here's what I did with my last cover. And like I said, like this is where I think, oh, and the server had an unexpected request. Ha. Okay, we're not going to try again, mostly because I already, I don't need that cover right now. But what I just wanted to say is, because you guys saw me with it already uploaded, if you wanted to upload your book to do this process, because I showed you it was already uploaded, you would just click craft and optimize metadata or create a cover image. So for create a cover image, or actually, yeah, we could do that. So, you click and you browse the file and you upload the file. Oh, stop. My computer and I are fighting. And so you can do that. And it's just a very easy step-by-step, this is how you do it kind of thing. But what I wanted to show you is I didn't fully love that cover necessarily. But I also know that because I have a series and I want my series to be consistent, what I actually have done in the past, and this is something that for those of you who are like, I don't want an AI cover, I hope you stuck with me. Because if you don't want an AI cover, here's what you do. This is what I did. And it isn't because I object to an AI cover. It's that I had something very specific in mind. Also, the cover generator wasn't allowing me to make the changes I wanted to. So the previous book, Quiet Christmas, Here are the results and the same kind of thing that I showed you before. So here were some of the results that I got, which were nice. And then, let's see if I can get rid of this and make it better. Okay. And then, so I'm looking at these, and what I really loved was this cover here, this creating a sanctuary amidst the holiday season. But there were some problems with the cover, and I wanted it to show the town a little more. And so here's me with all the different remixes trying to get what I wanted out of it. And it didn't quite do the job, and that's okay. So what I did is I downloaded what I liked. I sent it to my cover designer and I said, hey, this is what I want. Can you help me? So this is what she created. The woman inside the bookstore looking out at the town. What was really important to me, because this is important to the story, and this is where I think you can make your book really shine and your cover can do a lot more work than you think it can, is the whole thing about the story is she doesn't like all those Christmas lights and things. So I wanted the interior of the bookstore to be very plain, because that is exactly what the bookstore looks like. And her employee brought in like a Christmas tree and put a little star on top. And that's the only decoration she allowed. And so the fact that it's there, to me, is really symbolic of the whole story. And so I just couldn't get the cover generator to give me that. Whereas I could go right to the person and they were able to fix it. And now I'm looking at it going, oh, here are some things I would change about it. But when I say that, this is the ebook cover on sale right now. However, when I went to go make the print book, we do have a generator in PublishDrive that is for free, that I could have stuck this into that generator and it would have given me the print cover copy that I could just use. I chose not to do that because, as I said, there were a couple of little details that I was like, I don't love this. And a friend of mine who's a cover designer was looking for some work. And so I was like, hey, could you make a cover for me? And she's like, yes. And so since I knew I needed the new print cover, this is what she came up with for the new cover. And like what I really needed was that banner for the series, because it is a series. It is something that people are going to, again, this is the first book in the series. So I really wanted something to be like, let people know. And so again, now we have the small town, we have the Christmas vibe, but notice there's no people on the cover. Now, here's your quiz to see how much you were paying attention when we were looking at the Amazon bestsellers. How many of those books had a single person on had just the woman on the cover? And the answer is none. So I was, with just my heroine on the cover, I was already sending the wrong signal about my book. It just isn't a cover that's selling, particularly in the genre. However, what did we see? We did see some really pretty town scenes. And so this really pretty town scene is exactly what I wanted. And so even if we go back to the publishing assistant, what I probably would do to make it closer, I really liked that scene. And I wonder, now that I'm saying that, if I could do that, is I really liked, let's come back here. So here we are. That was the first one. But I wonder what it would be like if I just said remix cover, remove the people. Because this one I decided was okay because it has like a couple as opposed to it had the, okay, so here we go. As opposed to just one person. I don't know if this is going to work because, okay. A Main Street. I don't know if that'll work, just removing them from the prompt. I probably would have to reprompt, like redo it, but we're just going to play and see. Like I said, I have so many credits, I can play as much as I want, and it is kind of fun. It's sometimes addictive. So yeah, no, they did not. It did not take. It did not take the couple out, but that's okay. Although, I really like this one. Like, let's just. Yeah, I really, really like this one. Like, yeah, you can see it. But, the couple is more intimately embracing. I actually really super like that. But this is not about what I really super like. It is really about going back to this. Do we see what this looks like? And what it looks like is I probably still haven't hit it, even with the cover that I made, because what you can see is the more illustrated covers are just so much more in favor with the readers right now. We do have one there but that's Bridgerton, so Bridgerton really doesn't count. But we do have a couple here. But as you can see, most of these are illustrated covers, and so I probably still haven't hit the mark with what I'm trying to do. I'm going to do it because I just paid a bunch of money to. I just paid a bunch of money to have that one cover already done. Right, let's get my mouse working here. Okay, so, but what I have is I really liked that cover concept. And so what I will do is send my cover designer, I really like this cover concept. Please make something that fits with the branding and style of the previous cover that you did, just with this theme. And I actually have a couple of ideas about how I want to take that same imagery that we had in that first cover and just change it to what the second cover will be. So we'll see. But I wanted to show you that because it's so simple to use the publishing assistant. And even if you're like, hey, I don't want to use AI, I don't want an AI cover, great. If you're like me and you're like, hey, I don't want to use, I don't know what I want on my cover. I just know I want it to be like what's selling. As you could see, what our cover generator gave us were a lot of similar covers to what's on that bestseller list. And there's a reason for that, because what it does is it compares, okay, here are the styles used by the covers on the bestseller list. This is the kind of style we want. And to be clear, it's not copying anything. It's just saying, here are the patterns I recognize. These are similar patterns I need. And so we're not using anyone else's data, anything like that. We're just basically, it's doing faster what I just did with you, visually going over it and saying, here are the different things. It can just do that in absolute seconds, which is great. And so the workflow, I was showing you, I didn't go over this, and I don't know if you noticed when I was doing the upload, but to use the cover image generator, you can have EPUB, DocX, or PDF manuscript. What it does is it reads your manuscript, and so it looks at what's actually in there. And this is part of why, I know there are a few things that need to be changed, because some of the things I'm changing in the manuscript, I think will change the cover direction as well. But it's reading it for those cues. It's reading it to say, okay, here are the major themes. Here are the major keywords. Here are the different tropes and concepts that are important to the story that we're going to put in the story. And so it's doing all of that for you without all of that big, heavy research that I did. And we didn't even go very far down the rabbit hole. If I was actually doing this for myself or for a client or somebody, I would have actually explored further those genres. We just looked at the top 50. I would have probably gone into the top 100. And again, excluding the ones from Trad Club, excluding the well-known names, who on that list is kind of a mid-list or maybe even a newer author that you can use, because that's what the readers are looking for. And you still want to at least have a couple of nudges in the direction of, if you notice a lot of the Trad Club books, they still all kind of followed that same thing. And a lot of the books on the bestseller list followed that. And so it's really balancing, okay, is this the theme that is selling the most books, or is it the name? Is it whatever? Really digging deep into that, but making sure that whatever you come up with as the author, as the creative behind that work, making sure that your book and your book cover matches those things that are happening out of in the rest of the market. And again, you might be like, I don't like illustrated covers. Did you see that was most of what was selling? And so again, I don't have an illustrated cover. I might move in that direction. I don't know. But it's worth thinking about and sitting with. Is this just a quick trend, or is this something that's going to be longstanding in the market? And so thinking about that and making those decisions, but always doing it based on what's selling, not on your personal taste. And like I said, is making sure that when you're doing this, you're paying attention to those things. And then and frankly, some of those covers were usable just as they were from PublishDrive and from the PublishDrive Publishing Assistant. I probably would have used them with a little bit more time of tweaking, except that I already have an existing cover that I need really strongly for that branding to match. That typography that you saw was something that I sat down with some people and we figured out the typography that was really going to work and look good, and that matched some things that I was seeing that other people I knew were doing that I really enjoy, and they're having good sales. So I'm like, I really want these kinds of things. But it's a great way to explore your possible creative directions. And so for a future book, I probably would use one of those covers. Again, if this book was not part of this series, I totally would. So think about that and think about what your needs are as an author, as a creative. And some of the things you could do with it is, again, exploring those possible creative directions. Maybe there were a couple of different ones where I was like, I don't know. I could have sent that to my readers, for example, and said, hey, do you like cover A or cover B? And suddenly that's a great way to engage with your readers and a way to market them. As you saw, each iteration only cost me 4 credits. And so that's a really cheap way to have ideas and potential to share with your readers. And then use that as that starting point to communicate with a designer. Or if you want to do like my friend Susan Gable did and do a backlist refresh, here's an option for testing that. Or if you're just somebody who's like, I just need an ebook cover, great, we can help you with that. And so here are some action steps for you. Take a look at one of your books and place its cover beside the 3 or 5 comparable books. Like really dig deep into those comps. Who's selling well? Who's a comparable author? If you're comparing yourself to a New York Times bestseller and you're not a New York Times bestseller, it's probably not going to be a great apples to apples comparison. So pick someone who's really in your lane, or maybe just a couple steps aspirationally above you in terms of sales. Really take a look at where you want your career to go, and then view them all. And what I would advise you to do is view them all at thumbnail size. Go through, like I just showed you on my phone. Start scrolling through your phone. What really is drawing your eye? What's drawing the reader's eye? What of that can the reader read? Because nowadays, most people are scrolling on their phones looking at books. So is it something that someone scrolling on their phone is going to be able to figure out? That's something for you to look at. And what is your communicating? What is your cover communicating? And then think about one element you might want to test or improve. Think about one element that maybe you want to play with, or one cover, or one idea. Start playing with it and figuring it out if it makes sense to change what you're doing. Like I said, I can't underscore this enough, that it just absolutely blew my mind looking at, there were several hundred books. I spent all day going through this list of books because at first I was just looking for a friend's book because my friend said that they had a book. And then I started realizing that this was a really great marketing study of what is and isn't working. And so many of those books that had really, really bad covers, they're never going to get in front of a reader. And it's probably a really great story, but no one's going to find that story because they're not looking at that book. They're not curious enough to read the back cover copy. There's the saying, you never judge a book by its cover. And unfortunately, when we're talking marketing, we're talking selling your books, your book absolutely is judged by its cover. And if your cover isn't connecting with the reader right off the bat, they're never going to flip it over to read the back cover copy. And if the cover doesn't catch them, the back cover copy doesn't catch them, they're never going to get to the inside of the book to see that it really is a great book. And I know so many of you have really, really good books out there that deserve to be read and deserve to be seen. And so this is how, if you want to sell more books, take a look at your cover and see what you can do to improve your book cover. I hope you all have a great rest of the week. And as always, if you have questions or want more information, feel free to reach out and we'll talk to you soon. Oh, no, I won't. Oh my goodness, I completely forgot. That's so funny. It was a good thing my mouse froze. We, as PublishDrive, I mentioned, we are announcing we are having an online conference, and it is September 8th and 9th. It will be on YouTube. It is completely free. And we have a lot of wonderful guests who are coming. I cannot wait to introduce them to you all. But we do have a webpage where you can get more information. I will put that link in the notes afterwards. So check it out. And now I will sign off and we'll talk to you next week.